Hey everybody, thanks a lot for joining us. We're just setting up a meeting today to talk about standards-based report cards and grading. So we're primarily talking with our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade families because of the changes going on this year with everyone. So today with you we have myself, I'm Todd Deshawn, the Assistant Superintendent, and then we have some of our other administrators, instructional coaches here, and we'll start over here with Mr. Weatherall.
Jason Weatherall, Principal at Maori Elementary.
Diane Everhart, Building Principal, Cooverville Elementary.
Dr. Beaudry, Elementary Literacy Coach. Dr. Weinkoop, Elementary Math Coach.
Megan McGuire, Fairview Building Principal.
So the past 3 weeks we sent out several communications and emails to families explaining about standards-based report cards, and this week we wanted to kind of do things a little bit differently, so we thought we'd have a sit-down kind of Q&A together here collectively. So we're going to just kick things off here, kind of go around the room here and share some thinking around some of the rationale and reasoning behind why we're doing what we're doing. So one of the big questions that has come up with is why did we make this change and how come it happened so quickly, or what happened with that? So Ms. McGuire, can you take that one?
Absolutely. So we've been working as a district over the last several years to transition our grading to standards-based grading. So kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade were already using standards-based grading. 3rd grade was starting it this year, and our plan was to roll it up into 4th and 5th grade. However, that wasn't supposed to happen yet this year, but with the change to our new math program, we started having a lot of conversations about the fact that the teachers didn't feel like they were collecting good data from just the tests that they were giving. There was a lot of conversation about whether certain things should count or not count, and the teachers didn't feel like the percent-based grades that kids were getting were really indicative of what they did and didn't know. So that prompted a lot of conversations around how to better report out to parents what kids do and don't know. And so we had conversation with our teachers, and they were on board with the idea of going ahead and switching over. And while this is a little unfamiliar to the parents, the teachers are already giving kids a lot of feedback that way and planning lessons that way due to PSSA testing and state standards that they are very familiar with. So it wasn't a tough transition in terms of what they are teaching, it's just how they're giving feedback to kids that really adjusted with this change.
And while it seems really quick, we actually did start having the conversation back in September.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking about it through the fall here.
Yes.
Another really a big question is, we've explained the 1, 2, 3, 4 and what they mean, and they don't really correspond with A, B, C, D. But one of the things that people have asked is, will I see a lot of 2s, or should I see 3s or 4s? More than likely, your learner, your child's going to see probably more 2s than anything. And what that essentially means is that we have to remember that the standards-based grading it's based on the end of the year. So as we progress and move throughout the year, we're working towards mastery or growth as we go throughout the year. So you won't see necessarily a lot of 3s and 4s. You'll see more than likely more 2s than you would the other numbers. Not to say that you couldn't see even a 1, or you might see a 3. There's a potential you could see a 4, but more than likely it's the kiddo still working towards proficiency and mastery of those specific standards that are listed in the on the report card. Next, Dr. Weinkoop, so another question that has come up is, so from one trimester to another, could my child drop from a 3 to a 2, and why would this happen? So let's say your child gets a 3, this time around, and then next trimester they get a 2. Should I be freaking out about that?
No, you shouldn't be freaking out. It's rare, but it can happen. Cases where it could happen, the child mastered a skill in isolation of other skills, and then when it's combined with some more complex problem solving by the end of the school year, we realized maybe the child wasn't performing on that as well as we had thought, or has had as much of a depth of understanding as we thought they may have had, or the text that they showed mastery on was one that really spoke to them, maybe an easier text, but it didn't transfer to some other text. Rare cases, it could be indicative of something else going on with your child, some other issues maybe that aren't academic. And if that happens, the best thing to do is to communicate with your child's teacher first, and then go to the building administrator and maybe have some discussions there about what's going on.
Yeah, and as we progress throughout the year, essentially we're climbing the staircase of complexity, so things do get more challenging as you move throughout the year, and sometimes you might hit a bump in the road, or your learner may, hit a little bit of a glitch, but not the norm,
Not
it's
the
an
norm.
exception, So another question has come up, and I think we did talk briefly about this in last week's communication, but just I don't know if you could fill this one. It's conferences are coming up, right before Thanksgiving here, and some have asked, well, how is this going to look or sound? I'm used to the 80% or the 90%. I know what that means, but so how will that conference look and sound? Would be different from what I'm hearing when we're working on like percentages and letter grades.
Well, certainly we're excited about conferences coming up, and we welcome everyone to sign up to come see their classroom and their child's teacher. I think what's important to remember, as you said, Dr. DeShong, this is an end of the year benchmark. This is something we're working towards. You certainly want to be having that conversation with your child's teacher. What are their strengths? What areas are they working on? What are some things that you could help with at home? Or we can work collectively as partners together to help take the child to the next level. I would also say that it'd be important for you to ask, hey, could I see my child's work? Will there be samples of my child's work there? Just to give you a feel for what that expectation will be and what those end of the year standards look like for a child in that grade level. But certainly we encourage you to have open communication with your families and students, with your teacher. We don't want that to be a time where it's, wow, what's going on? If you have a learner who's struggling, certainly you want to be having that conversation now. And then again, working together collaboratively, what can we do? How can we, help them in any way we possibly can?
And I mean, while we have scheduled conferences too, they're scheduled, but you can conference anytime, with your teacher. And it's really about communication, So at any time where there's concern, no one should be surprised come conference time that, oh my goodness, my kid's not doing real well. Because again, that should be communication and just having that understanding as we move throughout day to day, week to week, month to month, right? So, speaking of, my kid's getting ones. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? They're getting a 1. They've got a couple ones. Should I be concerned, Dr. Beaudry?
I think this piggybacks off of what the three of you have already said. So the standards are end of year expectations. At the beginning of the year, as you said, Dr. DeShong, you're going to see a lot of 2s. We're on pace to meet those end of year expectations. So if you are seeing a 1, there is a concern. But the question is, how big of a concern is it? And that you should have conversations with during conferences. Beginning of the year, I don't know that I would be as concerned about a 1, but I still would want to have the conversation to see, is this just something that's not clicking for the student? Is it a new math concept that they haven't worked on as much? Is it complex text that we need to keep working on? The teacher could be supporting in the classroom, having these conversations, helping the child. We do have more supports in place if it's needed. We have reading specialists and some more support when it comes to reading, but yeah, I think just having the conversations with the teacher, and as Dr. DeJong said, during conferences or at any point in time. If you see 1s at the end of the second trimester, I would definitely, reach out if the teacher hasn't already reached out to you to have those conversations about why there is a concern if you're seeing a 1. The teacher has marked that the child is not currently on pace. So how far off are we, I guess is the question with the 1s.
Yeah, and then, on the flip side of that, obviously it's well, my kid's getting 3s and 4s, so shouldn't they be moving to the next grade level? Because, right, you're working towards end of year goals and progress, right? So if they're getting 3s and 4s now, does that mean they really have anything else to learn? Mr. Weatherall, what are your thoughts on that?
So if your child's getting 3s and 4s, that just means that we need to meet them where they're at and push them to grow even further. Just as if a student were getting 1s, we would want to meet them at their level and provide them with supports for them to continue to grow. We do that same thing on the opposite end with students who are at the top of the grade level as well, so that we can push them and advance their growth as well.
Yeah, and I think what's important, to your point, Mr. Weatherall, I think this helps all of us to really specifically hone in to each individual student and learner and what they need. So I think it's a great thing for our kiddos, our learners, and I know our teachers are really on board with it, and I think it's going to do great things for all of us around as a district. So we really appreciate you joining us for this time, this video shoot that we're doing, a little Q&A. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to any one of us, as well as Mr. Pappas and some of you who's going to be with us today. We really appreciate just reaching out to any of us, myself, Dr. Wykoop, Dr. Beaudry, Mr. McGuire, Mr. Weatherall, and Mrs. Everhart, and we'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. So I know you're going to have a great conference coming up, and we look forward to continuing to serve you through the rest of the school year. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you.